Okay, checking this first one right here, turning the denominators into 8, you only have to adjust these first two fractions, okay? So you multiply the top and the bottom here by 4, you multiply the top and the bottom here by 2, and you don't have to adjust this one. So I'm only working with my numerators now. That gave me 12h minus 2 equals 10h. And I solved and got h was 1. And because there were no variables in the denominator, I didn't have any excluded values to worry about. Anybody get that right? Good. Okay. How do you feel about the next one? Okay. Did you get stuck because it ended up with a fraction? All right, look at what I did. On the right track?
Yeah, I didn't know where to go after the 9 light.
Okay, now I will say 9 doesn't divide evenly into 16, right? But what do you recognize 16 and 9 both as? They're both perfect squares, right? So if I'm working with a quadratic and I'm taking the square root, then I should get pretty numbers in the end. When you take the square root of a fraction, you take the square root of the numerator and denominator separately. But don't forget that you got to have a plus or minus also. So it's positive or negative 4/3. Okay? Not bad, not bad. I'm glad that you at least got to here where it was 9y squared equals 16. Okay? Just know if you're working with a y squared or anything squared and a number, there's no x term or y term, whatever, okay? You can do the square root method. All right, let's take a look down here at the bottom right-hand corner. The first thing that I'm going to do right here, just because I want to be able to look at the individual pieces of my denominators, I took out a GCF of 4 in that first denominator. I got an x minus 1, and then over here I have an 8. All right? So I've got to think of what is my denominator going to have to be. Well, if these first two fractions have an x minus 1, but this back one doesn't, that means I've got to multiply the top and the bottom by an x minus 1. Okay? But then I want to look at my numbers. I have a 4 here, I have an 8 here, and all I technically have here is a 1. What do I want to turn that into? An 8. So I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 2. And on this one, I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 8. This one already had an 8, so you don't have to multiply it anymore. Okay? What about excluded values here? What can x not equal? Just a 1, yeah. The number, that doesn't really affect anything. It's only the pieces that have the variable. So I've got what I need out of the denominator. I'm going to discard that. So I have 22 minus 16 equals x times x minus 1. Hey. Okay, so right here, I'm going to distribute my x. I'm going to combine those like terms. So I've got 6 equals x squared minus x. And working with a quadratic, so I'm going to do x squared minus x, and then minus 6. Okay, let's see, that's going to give me x minus 3 and x plus 2. So my two solutions are positive 3 and negative 2. Neither one of those are my excluded values. Sound good? Uh-oh. Okay, let's take a look at, I want to do this bottom right-hand corner. Okay, so right here, I've got an r minus 2 in these first and last fractions, but I've got this trinomial right here. So let me factor that. Let's see, that should give me an r minus 5 and an r minus 2. Like that, because that means every single one of those has an r minus 2. What's missing is an r minus 5 in the first and last fractions. Okay? So every single denominator should look exactly the same once you've found your common denominator. What are the two things that r cannot equal? Positive 2 and positive 5. What do I do now? Discard it. Yeah, I've got everything I need. So if I were to distribute a 1, nothing changes. So that's just an r minus 5. And I've got a plus 1 right here. And then I get 6r minus 30. All right, I'm going to move my variables to one side. And then we'll see, this becomes a negative 4. I'm going to move it to the other side. So I got negative 5r equals negative 26. And divide both sides by negative 5. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Now, it's okay if you end up with a fraction that doesn't simplify, as long as it's not one of your excluded values. Okay? All right, I'll tell you what, let's do this one right before it, and then we'll call it a day. Okay? All right, so right here, I can factor out a GCF of 6 in the middle. And that gives me an m plus 3 in 2 of my 3 fractions. Okay? That means I need to put an m plus 3 on this back fraction. Okay? Now, what am I missing on these two? The m plus 1. Now, you got to do that for both of them because neither one of those has the m plus 1. Okay? All right, but I got one more thing that I need to look at. What else does every denominator need to have? the 6. This one has a 6, but I need to multiply a 6 on the numerator denominator to create my common denominator. Okay? What are my excluded values here? M cannot equal -3 or -1. Okay, so I know in the end, if I get -3 or -1, I just have to like cancel that out, okay? So let's see. I'm done with the denominators. I am going to have 6 times m plus 1 minus 1 times m plus 1. You just leave it cracked. It's okay. She's coming back. But then over here, I've got 6m times m plus 3. And I'm going to do all my distributions. 6m plus 6 minus m minus 1. 6m squared plus 18m. Okay. So over here, I have 5m plus 5. And since I'm working with a quadratic, I want to take this stuff and subtract it over here. So I'm going to subtract 5m, and I'm also going to subtract 5. So I have 0 equals 6m squared plus 13m minus 5. All right, and we need the x method. So 6 times -5 is -30. And you need that to give you a positive 13. Well, I got to be careful because I want them to multiply to give me a positive, right? I'm sorry, a negative. So my signs have to be different. You have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6, 2 and -15, or let's do 15 and -2. That'll give me the positive 13. So simplifying, what can I divide out of both of those? Okay, so that's 2 over 5. Here we can divide out of 2, so that's 3 and -1. Two m plus 5 times 3m minus 1. I get m equals -5/2, and m equals positive 1/3. And both of those are allowed. Those are not excluded values. Uh-oh, sorry, you can't see that. Any questions about that? No? Not bad? Good. Yes, ma'am.